So you're thinking about moving to Houston, Texas, or you live in Houston and you always hear people talking about the heights all the time. You want to know, what's the big deal? What's it all about? Well, stick around. We're going to be going through the 5 different neighborhoods and areas that you're going to want to know about, their history, what makes them unique, what makes them cool and hip. So stick around and we'll get to it right after the break. What's up? I'm Kerry Fletcher, and I'm part of the Mims group with my wife, Drew Mims. She's Drew, I'm Kerry. Together we're Drew Kerry, you know what I mean? I know it's a little cheesy, but still makes it easier to know. Hey, if you want to know anything and everything about Houston, and especially that Houston, call it that inner loop living, the Heights, River Oaks, Westview, Bel Air. You want to be in the middle of, close to downtown. You want to be know in and around the Med Center. You want to know around Rice University. Well, this is the channel for you. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to click that little bell, and that way every time we're doing a video, you'll be notified. Now look, if you are thinking about moving to Houston, or if you're just moving in and around Houston, we get phone calls, emails, text messages all the time of people wanting our help and support. So if you're thinking about it, reach out to us. Give us that phone call, send us that text message, send us the email. Heck, if you want to, just send us a carrier pigeon our way. Any which way you want to reach out to us, great with us. If you're thinking about moving in and around Houston, we've got your back. So now let's transition into the Heights. What is it? What's it all about? Now, if you saw or you caught my video last week all about the 5 tips for flooding and hurricanes, you're really going to want to catch it, because it's sort of at the core issue of what makes the Heights so popular and why it was founded. Also, we're going to be cutting in and out of this video with some really cool, up-to-date, daily flood mapping. If you ever work with me, you'll know that that's one of the first things I want to talk about. That's one of the first things I want to get out of the way is what are the areas in and around Houston? What are the tools you can use to really make sure and understand and look at this city not from a Google Maps perspective, not from a satellite perspective, but what is it going to look like when the rain and the stuff really comes hitting down? So, getting into the Heights, Houston Heights. One of the first master planned communities, one of the first real subdivisions here in Houston. And it was called the Heights because you'll see, wow, you've got floodways to the south, floodways to the west, floodways to the east, but it's really some of the highest, most natural draining land within all of Harris County, particularly in and close to downtown Houston. So it was founded in the late 1800s, and it is sort of the core of what is the Heights proper. So how do we bound that? It's bounded by I-10 to the south. It's bounded by Studamont, Studawood, name changes all along there, along the east. And then along the north, you've got Cavalcade, 20th Street, up until you reach Yale. And then it's sort of like an overextension of Utah. You've got Yale, and then Shepherd, which bounds it on the west, goes all the way up to I-10. So that is Heights proper. So when somebody says, I live in the Heights, they may or may not know the distinction, the difference, but that right there is the original Heights. The first area that I want to cover, and the first area I want to talk about today, is what's called the Woodland Heights. Now, Woodland Place, I think it was originally called Woodland Heights. They were founded about the same time as the Heights or Heights proper, so you get this really old street lined neighborhood, the beautiful oak lined streets, a lot of old restored buildings kind of in this downtown. But it was founded about the same time as or just before the Heights were, but it sort of incorporated into its younger big brother, if you will. And maybe we'll cut in a historic map. You'll see that the Woodland Place is this little community over to the east of the Heights when it was first founded and mapped out. But Woodland Place, Woodland Heights is, you can see, it's a lot closer, or it's closer, and it's not nearly as high, but it's bound by White Oak Boulevard or White Oak Bayou to the south, and I-45 to the east, and also one of its main thoroughfares is Houston Avenue that kind of runs through that east side. And then you've got North Main bounding it to the north, and then street names change along here. It's Pecor, Pecor, and then that's 11th Street. So that's sort of, and then of course, like I said, Studemont, Studewood, where it butts right on up to the Heights or Heights proper to the west. We are right here at the entrance to Woodland Heights, as you see it. We are at the intersection of Houston and White Oak. You should be able to see right over my shoulder downtown Houston, very, very close. We're also right down here next to the White Oak Park, Bayou Center, and everything to the north of me, in my front, your rear, is Woodland Heights, and south of me goes into downtown and what's called the Arts District, or what also some people are starting to call it Sawyer Heights. So, why do people love it? Well, first and foremost, it is a little bit closer. That Houston Avenue is a great little shot right on into downtown. It's a great little shot right on into 45 if you need to get down to the Med Center. You don't have to worry about getting on I-10. You don't have to worry about getting on I-45 north of I-10. You can just shoot right on into downtown and make it into the medical district or the medical center. You can make it into downtown, and you're also just a stone's throw from the Arts District and the hip and upcoming Sawyer Heights, which we will cover in our next video. Also, anchored there in Woodland Heights is one of the best elementary schools, highly rated elementary schools, very desirable elementary schools in Travis Elementary. And the main road you'll see as we're cutting through here is Bayland Avenue. Now, Bayland Avenue looks like it's out of Forrest Gump or out of Savannah, Georgia, where you just have these huge oak-lined streets, thoroughfare, walkable, with these larger lots, larger, older homes. And when I say larger, it's a little bit of a relative comparative, not larger in comparison to River Oaks, but larger in comparison to, say, Heights proper or Norhill, which we're going to be getting to next. So some larger lots, larger homes. You've got a mix of this modern farmhouse architecture with the older. You've got right there along the intersection of Houston and Bayland, you still have these old drugstore original buildings that are just, beautiful and awesome to look at. Great parks, great walkable. A lot of the folks that take their kids there to Travis Elementary all live within short walking distance. We've got good friends that live over there next to the school. So, older community. When I say older, more historic. Founded around the same time of the Heights. Sort of grew into the Heights there at Studemont. And great restoration, great historic homes, but also a mix of more modern farmhouses and more modern architectures on larger lots. So let's talk about Norhill next. Norhill was, let's see, there was Heights. Actually, Norhill's probably the oldest one. It was formed in the 1920s. So Heights, late 1800s, Woodland Heights or Woodland Place in the late 1800s. Sunset Heights, which we're going to be getting to next, 1910. And then Norhill, founded in 1920. Now, Norhill makes this cute little awkward triangle where you've got Pecor or 11th Street to the south, so just north of Woodland Heights. You've got Studemont, Studewood to the west, so you've got Heights proper to the west. And then sort of cutting a diagonal and making and forming that triangle is North Main, right? Coming up from Houston Avenue and then running along that way. So you got this triangular shape. Now, what makes Nor Hill unique? This is one of the better historically preserved areas. So when you drive around, and my son and I, so forgive me for the footage, I've got my 16, 17-year-old son driving me around these different areas, and we've got the GoPro, so you can get a look and feel of the different homes, communities. And with Nor Hill, we did a circle around the park, which kind of anchors it there. And you can see that the lots are smaller, the homes are smaller. It's more of this cottage type, and those are restricted. So those are historic homes. So if you're looking at buying one and renovating it, there's not as much buying, scraping, and building this brand new. There's restrictions on what you can and cannot do in it. So it has this craftsman style, this almost like this preserved city, and there's some beautiful, well renovated, gorgeous homes that from the outside just look very historic and keep and maintain that. What's happening right there at that intersection? You've got North Main coming up, you've got Studemont-Studewood, you've got 20th Street, which causes this, it's also called Cavalcade, and then you've got North Main that goes on, so there's this big five-way intersection. Well, just north of that intersection is what's called Sunset Heights, and it's the Oklahoma to Texas. It's the whatever that is, Montana to Utah, right? It's the one that kind of fills in and forms out that Houston or Heights if you were to do a big rectangle. And it was founded in 1910. So, like anybody, they're like, oh, this Heights thing, it's really taken off. It's really booming. Let's carve out this little spot for ourselves and call it Sunset Heights, right? It was one of the first ones to really leverage the name of the Heights, but it was formed in 1910. Now, it's an area that when you're talking about the Heights and the Heights proper, it's one of the ones that was sort of last to gentrify, to change over. So you still have a lot more of the empty lots, scrape houses, torn down, houses, but it is an absolute beautiful, wonderful neighborhood with some really good homes coming into it. We bought in the Sunset Heights. We bought brand new construction, and we love it. And on the video, you'll get a look and feel of some of the newer construction that's going on, some of the newer style homes that are going on here in Sunset Heights. Now, the borders of Sunset Heights, and we'll cut in the picture here. To the west is Yale. To the north is 610. To the east is not Main. Actually, Main Street sort of divides Sunset Heights into West Sunset Heights and East Sunset Heights. And oh, by the way, every one of these little communities that we're talking about, Wood Place, Nor Hill, Sunset, they all have their own little community network, get-together organizations, civic organizations. And we'll put the links to each one of those down in the description for you. So if you want to go check them out, you want to go get involved in that community, I know a lot of people that are. Highly encourage you to.
This is the entry to Sunset Heights, which you can see it over to my right, still Sunset Heights, but west versus east. Now just behind me is the intersection of Main Street, Cavalcade, and 20th, it's the same, and Studemont. Now, that's also the intersection where Nor Hill ends, Brooksmith Heights, and it's a big intersection.
So Sunset Heights gets divided into east and west, and good thing about the west is you're right close to the Heights. You're really just sort of a part of the Heights. There's really not much huge distinction between the two of them. And when you're on that east part of the Heights, you are up to one of the hottest, newest, best developments going on within Houston, and it's the market area. Now, there's been a farmer's market there just east of Airline, or just on Airline, just inside that 610 sort of corner for ages. My mother-in-law used to run a catering company, part of the church, so she used to have to entertain large groups of people, and she used to go down with the family truck and just get baskets of food and groceries down there. Well, like lots of things in the city, it got a little run down. It's always been active, but a little run down and just, sort of a commercial. Well, it was bought 2 to 3 years ago to be this new upscale farmers market community development with restaurants and shops, and it is just changing that whole neighborhood. It's not just a planned, they've started construction, they've started really converting that over. And so between East Sunset Heights and West Sunset Heights, they both have a lot of really cool, really new development going on. And I think in my video I'm going to cut in and show you sort of Angela's Oven, just an example of one of the many mom and pop family owned businesses that are tied to arts, artistry, baking, serving not only the community here in the Sunset Heights, but the broader community of Houston. So now we're going to get back to and talk about the Heights proper. What does it mean to be the Heights? So, like we had said previously, founded in the late 1800s, one of the first master plan communities, and it really started taking off after a yellow fever outbreak, and people wanted to get out of downtown Houston and still wanted to be able to work and commute in, but get out of the lower lying level areas. So there was this big rush in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I want to say it was exactly 1900, but we'll have to fact check that. And it really just started to take off as a development. The streets, when they came in, it started with Heights Boulevard, this big tree-lined area. Now today, Heights Boulevard has this hike, bike, walk trail that goes down the middle with all this art in it. The video will show you. My son and I, we drove around it so that you could see all the architecture and the shops and the old homes that have been converted to offices. But in that middle, back in the day, it used to have, the trolley. It used to have the steam train that would take you all the way down to the bayou, and then you could take the bayou down to the city. And for those of you who don't know about Houston, Houston was found where White Oak Bayou, which borders the south of both Woodland and also the Heights proper, and Buffalo Bayou, which we'll get to Buffalo Bayou in our upcoming videos, especially when we talk about the Allen Parkway, Memorial, and the city, the parks that we have here. So people used to commute down on the trolleys, get to White Oak Bayou down to downtown Houston back in the day. Well, so you've got all these Victorian homes, you've got all these huge trees that have been converted into businesses. You've got beautiful parks that have been, where plots of land have been dedicated to the city. During the 1950s, 60s, there started to be a real decline in the Heights. It was not a desirable area at all during that time. And then it was the late 80s, early 90s that there really started to be this dedicated effort. I think it was 1991 I was reading, where the Historical Society came in and started to preserve the Heights and really kind of turn it around. Well, fast forward, now it's one of the premier neighborhoods to live in here in Houston. And it has I hate to use this term, I really do, but I can't think of anything better, but it has sort of this Austin feel without the Austin, some of the negative connotations of living in Austin. It's got a lot of art. It's got a lot of really hip and cool shops and shopping, and at the same time, you don't have to deal with all the stuff associated with Austin. So it's the hip place, trendy place to live here in Houston. Bordered by Shepherd on the west, we've already covered it. White Oak to the bottom. Yale runs parallel to Heights Boulevard and runs all the way up through 610, up to 610. So those are sort of your main thoroughfares. Studewood, Studemont to the east, and then of course 20th Street to the north. Now, my son goes to Heights High School, loves it. Go Bulldogs, yay! And rides his bike to school, just loves it there. Really, it's a school that's, I don't know how to call it, but it's got a really good spirit. A lot of the people that I know there, their kids have been, third, fourth generation. Heights used to be Reagan high school graduates, Bulldogs. And the last place that we're going to talk about, the last place that we went was this downtown. So the peak, if you will, just the highest of the high within the Heights was probably in the 1920s, the roaring 20s. And it had a thriving downtown scene of its own, with its own movie theater, restaurants, shops, walking. And the look and the feel of that has been captured so amazingly. So whenever people come and they want to visit Houston or they want to visit the Heights, you go to that 19th Street, 20th Street corridor and you can see Art Deco architecture in the theater. You can see, the buildings and the shops. Some of them were renovated and updated in the early 1950s, but it just gives you this small town feel, this small town look, and these mom and pop shops where you're literally, when you turn around and look, you can see downtown just a stone's throw away. And so it's a place like no other place in Houston. It's a place like taking you back in time, yet with all the modern amenities. I want to say I counted at least 3 different ice cream, frozen yogurt places within a stone's throw, high-end restaurants, trendy restaurants, and these ice cream dessert places. They do ice cream for the kids, beer and wine for the adults, a little bit of something for everybody. So that's about it for today. I really appreciate you sticking around and enjoying this with me. Now, my next video is going to be all the neighborhoods that call themselves the Heights, but they're not. What's good about them? What's bad about them? We'll be talking about Greater Heights, Shady Acres. We'll be talking about Independence Heights. We'll be talking about Lower Heights. We'll be talking about Sawyer Heights, Art District. Now, when I tell you about these, doesn't mean that they're all bad. It's just, they're not really the Heights. They are branding, naming that are trying to leverage that name of the Heights. So until next time, I will see you later.